Raise your hand. We'll bring you a microphone. You'll get called on from the back of the room for your questions. And we'll start with Coach's opening statement.
All right. Warmed up a little bit, huh? You guys were inside the whole time anyway, so I don't want to hear it. Man, what a win. What a way to go out for this season in Notre Dame Stadium. And, you know, we spent a lot of time last night as a team talking about what an opportunity we get to perform one more time as this team in Notre Dame Stadium. This is a special place, and our performance hasn't always reflected that way. And I wanted to make sure we finished this season and this last opportunity the right way. And, you know, I probably should start by, you know, saying thank you for, you know, the people that helped make this opportunity happen. I mean, the snow, the guys that were working to clean it up, the students that were there that stayed in this weather condition. It was my toughest game in terms of weather conditions, playing or coaching. And so the people that stayed, the fans, man, the students and the people that work here have been unbelievable. As far as the game, obviously it went really well. You know, the ability to run the ball offensively early in the game. And really, Drew, I thought, started off the game really pretty good, you know, and taking advantage of the opportunities that he had. Isaiah Foskey breaks the sack record, which is huge when you think about the elite pass rushers we've had in the history of Notre Dame football. Michael Mayer breaking another record today at home was huge. And then, you know, Ben Morrison, 3 interceptions. You know, he finds a way. He keeps finding a way. He's a talented young man. And I thought Logan Diggs had a really good day on offense. I think he had 100 and some plus yards rushing the ball. So overall performance-wise was really, really pleasing. And as I told them, let's enjoy this tonight, but we know what we have coming up next week. We had a great opportunity and a great challenge. And so, you know, enjoy tonight, and let's get ready to go back to work tomorrow. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Third row on your left. Sorry, Peter.
Hey, Coach. Could you put into words just how much your team has grown since the start of the year?
You know what? Are we playing better? Yes. I think at some point after the season, we'll go back and reflect and say, okay, where did we start to here? Right now, we're just in the moment. And but they are performing and playing at such a higher level, I'm sure, than we did at the start of the year. But it goes back to the leadership, those seniors, those guys that are captains. And you know what? They could easily started blaming and complaining and pointing fingers. Those guys looked at themselves and said, we're going to work. And they drugged everybody with them. And that's the sign of a team that's led by its seniors and its leaders. And there was no other option in our program. There was no other option. You know, I can get up there as a head coach and say, this is what we're doing. But until it's implemented by the leaders on your team, you know, that's such a strong statement in terms of their type of leadership. And so I'm proud of the way they've led our program.
Early in the year, you guys struggled to create turnovers. Now it seems like you're doing it quite a lot. You had 5, I think, today. I mean, what's going into that?
You know, gosh, I've been a defensive coordinator plenty of times where you stress turnovers and takeaways, and it never happens. But you keep going. You keep going. You don't get flustered. You challenge everything, right? You find a better way, and I think you're seeing it happen in bunches now, right? And it's starting to happen and go. And so our guys are taking advantage of their opportunities, you know, and maybe those opportunities that Ben had today might have been drop passes early in the year. We're taking advantage of our opportunities. And, you know, again, it's still a point of emphasis in practice. It has never changed. And that's probably it's going to lead to my next comment of, you know, it's a great, you know, lesson in terms of you can work at something tirelessly and not get the results you want. If you quit, you're never going to get the result. But the defensive staff has continued to work at takeaways, and then all of a sudden here it comes in bunches. And so I think it's a great lesson for our entire program that because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to get your reward tomorrow. Continue to do it, and at some point it will come. At some point it will.
Down in front on your right, John Bryce.
Hey, Marcus, you've referenced the bumpy road. Some of the players, Blake Fisher, have referenced the bumpy road. So where does that come from? What is that? And how did, especially the early season bumpy road, lead to today?
For me, it was a sermon somebody sent me when it was after a loss. And, you know, it kind of just hit me and said, okay, the pastor was talking about the bumpy road to better. And really what it was for us to look at ourselves as a program. I say, okay, we're on this bumpy road, but this bumpy road is life. The bumpy road to better is life, and it's also a reflection of this season, and it's also a reflection of a game. The ability to handle the ups and downs is to me what makes a person, what makes a team, what makes a life. And so I use it over and over. Just in academics, you can be on a bumpy road. In the course of a game, you can be on a bumpy road. But it's how you respond, to me, that really dictates the future. And that's the challenge I always have for these guys is, you know what? It's never as you foresee it on the front end. And that's what I said last week. But it's how you respond to the different events that happen to you. No matter how hard you try, you can try as hard as you want. And sometimes you can't control what happens to the events. And so how you respond to those things is really what defines this football team of this season. And so, as I told the seniors last night, this will be lessons that you use when you leave here. You'll use at the next level in the NFL. You'll use as a husband. You'll use as a father. It's never going to be perfect, but the ability to respond and to sustain and keep going after you have those ups and downs is truly what will change the future outcomes.
So with that in mind, then, what have you learned about your team on the course of this bumpy road? How is it serving you now, and how does it serve the program moving forward?
They're resilient. We got a resilient group of leaders, and I think I said this to Zara Postgame, is that this university attracts resilient people. If you're not a resilient person, you're not going to make it here. And that's something that I've learned in my short time here. This place weeds non-resilient people out. This university, and it even happens in the football program. If you're not a resilient, a tough-minded person, this probably at some point won't be the place for you. You'll say, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else. But that's what this university attracts, resilient people. And we're fortunate we get to coach great football players that are resilient people. And so I think that's a reflection of this university.
And then staying in the front on your left, Patrick Engel.
Marcus, I know you guys have had some of these games, and last week in particular, where you win, but maybe feel like you should have won by more. So I guess what's the significance both for you and the team to get out to the lead you did and then kind of leave no doubt in the second half?
Yeah, I was thinking about you when I addressed them halftime. I said, listen, I'm tired of getting up there post-game and they saying you guys aren't a second. You played to your competition. You guys came out to a 30-point lead, whatever. I said, listen, you help me answer these questions after the game. It's going to be about the decisions that we make and how we go perform. And as a head coach, you just sit there and you say, okay, what didn't I say or what didn't I do last week? You always look at yourself. And as a leader and say, okay, what didn't I do to prepare them for the second half? I said Navy was a second half team. I said they're never going to quit, but we didn't perform to the level. And so we tried different things this week. We tried to show them the film. We tried to, truly get them to see. I thought last week was the first time we truly took our foot off the pedal a little bit. And what in turn happens is you physically box somebody and they beat you on a block and they make a play. And that's what I mean when you take your foot off the pedal. Like, you're not as physical as you want. We didn't tackle well in the second half because I think we took our foot off the pedal. And this was a challenge today to say, listen, let's go out in the second half and truly continue to pull as hard as we can and can go as hard as we can. And, I think they really did. And, in the fourth quarter, we got some guys that haven't played a lot of football in the game, but the ability to hold that team to 0 points was huge.
And then run game, how much of an emphasis was it coming in to get that part of something that's been such a big part of your identity is back in a groove, and especially in the manner that you did it?
Yeah, it was funny. I kind of do my Friday keys to victory before Friday, and one of my keys, it said, run the ball or make them pay. What happens if a team doesn't let you run the ball? They bring 9 guys in the box. You got to make them pay. They're playing 0, and they're pressuring, and we got to throw the ball. And then I go into the offensive unit meeting, and it said, Coach Reese said something about, we're going to run the ball. There's no other option. And I said, you know what? That's right. And so we went to the Friday night meeting. I said, listen, we're going to run the ball and make them pay, right? And we had to run the ball. I don't care what they were playing defensively. I don't care if they brought everybody they had, similar to Navy. I said, we're going to have to find a way to run the ball. And I think it's a mental challenge to our guys that, you know what, somebody's going to have to beat a block. Somebody's going to have to beat a tackle. Right? They might have one more hat in the box, but we got to beat them, and everybody's got to do their job, and it's a mentality. And, the ability to run for shoot, I don't know how many total yards we had today rushing, but how much? Whew. That's pretty good. The ability to rush for 281, that's pretty good. And they stepped up to the challenge.
Back row on your right, Justin Frommer.
Marcus, you mentioned, you touched on Isaiah Foskey breaking the record. Obviously, he came back to try to win a national championship, but for him to still accomplish that before he leaves, just how important is that, big is that?
It's a reflection of so many things. He didn't come back just to break the record. He came back to win a national championship, just like you said. And you know what? He didn't win a national championship year, but what he did for this program and what those seniors did for this program, to me, will be the reason why we do win a national championship here in the upcoming future. And so, I told those guys last night in our last meeting, their senior meeting, is just thank you, because they built the foundation. They really have built the foundation of what is to come. And, I'm glad he got a personal achievement, but what he did for this program in terms of those seniors, it's going to be really impactful.
Back down in front on your left, Tyler Horka.
Marcus, obviously you've mentioned the senior leadership a lot and kind of crediting that for the turnaround of the season, but I'm curious what a guy like Michael Mayer has meant to the locker room and just being here. Obviously, it seems like every time we're here, we see a record go up on the screen, but the guy in the locker room and what he means to have a guy of that stature at this program, what does it mean to you?
It's I've said this before, when your best player is one of or the hardest worker, that's the ultimate example, right? Is when you can point and say, this is our best. Everybody knows it, and it's not probably the most dominant player we have is Michael Mayer. And but they also can watch him in practice and say, okay, he works as hard as anybody in this program. To me, that is the ultimate example, and that's who he is. He's a captain as a junior. He's a great leader by example, leader by his words, and he is an unbelievable football player. So it's been amazing to have him here, and we'll see what the future holds.
To see a guy like Matt Salerno get into the end zone for the first time in his career, he's paid his dues.
Was that his first time, huh?
Earns his scholarship. What did that mean to you? And who is Matt Salerno? It seems like he's the ultimate team guy, too.
He is. What a resilient guy that came here on as a walk-on. And it was funny, we showed a video to the team last night, and his parents had said, they told Matt Salerno, because he was deciding to walk on, they said, pick a school because of your academics, not because of football if you're going to walk on. And that's why he chose Notre Dame. And what a great example for our team, a guy that said, I'm choosing Notre Dame because of what this academic institution will do for my future, but I'm going to bust my tail and pay for school. And he busted his tail, and now he's on scholarship. And to get his first touchdown, I'm glad to hear that. He deserves it, but he's been a huge addition and just a huge part of the success we've had. A guy that goes in to block sometimes. We put him in the block, and he doesn't bat an eye. He goes in there and he does his job, and selfless individual.
Front row on your right, Pete Sampson.
Or you touched on this a little bit, but the ability to sort of play up, not because of the opponent, but play up because that's the standard you've tried to practice at. How significant can that be moving forward, like beyond next weekend, beyond whatever the bowl game is?
Play up to your standard, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
to come out and have the performance have nothing to do with the opponent.
Yeah, that's what great teams do. Great teams are able to play to a standard, right? Great individuals are able to perform to a standard, not to an opponent, right? Competitors really they rise to the level of their opponent. But to me, great teams, championship teams, they set a standard saying, this is the way we're going to work. There's no other option. This is the way we're going to perform. And performance somehow, listen, we all can sit here and say, hey, we're going to perform to this standard, and maybe something doesn't go your way. But every day to come into work and say we're going to practice and we're going to work to this standard is something that only great teams do, and it's something we'll continue to strive to be.
You had referenced sort of when you put in work, you don't know when you're going to get rewarded. I'm interested, like for you this season, you put in work to get a performance like that, not really sure when it's going to get. So, like, how do you sort of process today in terms of kind of an example of the own lesson, that lesson you're trying to get across to your players?
Yeah, for me, it's always trying to find a better way to lead. That's what, for me, it's like, how do I find a better way to lead to get these guys to prepare better and to perform on Saturdays at a higher level? And we'll look back today and look at this past week of our preparation. You know, next week's not going to be in a snow game, but 2 to 3 days this week, we said we're going to go outside because it's a mentality. We're going to be tough, and we're not going to let the weather affect us. And we're just going to continue to find better ways. And that's to me what I'm learning is that you don't have a book that says this is the way you lead. Because if you did, everybody would do. This is the way you lead. And no, it's having the ability to maybe have an idea, but also be able to adjust and find better ways to tune it based off your players. Because each player is different. Each team is different. And so that's what I'm learning is every day there's got to be a better way to do it. There's got to be a better way to coach. There's got to be a better way to lead these young people.
And then last question, middle left, second row.
Coach, you mentioned earlier in the season that Drew Pine's performance wasn't just about him, but like the offensive line blocking, running backs blocking, and also the wide receivers running like precise routes. So how important was to you seeing the wide receivers being at the spot where they had to be, especially with these conditions?
Yeah, everybody has a role in protecting our quarterback. That's the message I always have for our team. Every coach in our program has a role in protecting that quarterback. That quarterback has a role in making sure he protects himself. The way he throws the ball, the accuracy, the decision-making, but we all have a piece in it. The offensive line has a role in protecting the quarterback. The running backs have a role. The wideouts being exact, not close, exact in their routes. All that stuff has a role in protecting our quarterback, and that's our job is to protect him. And then he's got to perform. He's got to protect himself. He's got to perform, but we all have to make sure we help that guy have success.
And how would you describe Gabe Rubio's growth this year?
He's a tough individual. He is a tough guy. He is high motor, high energy. He's exceeded my expectations from last year. Did I think Gabe was going to be a good player? Absolutely. I didn't know how soon it was going to be, and he's exceeded my expectations. He's been a great addition for this team this year.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Joel's here, so we're rolling right.